In recent days, the world's media has been shaken by a declaration from Tehran. Two symbols of American maritime power, the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Tripoli, have come under attack. But in the war room, the most important news isn't Iran's declaration of attack. More important is why these two fortresses almost certainly didn't need to dodge the strike in the way we imagine. The press looks at range, but we look at the live data chain. Because in modern naval warfare, it's not a story about how far a projectile can travel. It's a story about how long a system can see its target. Look at the entity in focus, the USS Abraham Lincoln. 100,000 tons of steel, nuclear, and Aegis technology. It's not alone. It's the heart of a seamless, interconnected defense network. And this is the USS Tripoli. Don't let the designation amphibious ship fool you. In its Lightning carrier configuration, with over 20 35B fighters, it's a mobile stealth airfield, not a soft target. For a missile to reach these entities, the adversary must simultaneously solve three grueling physics problems. 1. Real-time target localization over the ocean. 2. Maintaining guidance data stream under intense jamming. And 3. Delivering enough firepower to saturate 4 layers of US active defense. If one link is missing, the missile still leaves the launch pad, but the actual strike doesn't materialize. Let's assume a combat scenario. An Iranian missile unit receives Lincoln's initial coordinates and fires. Long-range anti-ship missiles need about 8 to 10 minutes to travel 270 nautical miles. In those 10 minutes, an aircraft carrier traveling at 30 knots would move nearly 5 nautical miles from its original position. The result? The missile doesn't hit the ship. It's hurtling straight toward the ghost coordinates of 10 minutes ago. Without a neural network constantly updating the trajectory, the missile's guidance system, upon waking up, would be facing an empty seat. The problem isn't that the missile is flying slowly. The problem is that the target is constantly erasing its own trail. In the next 20 minutes, we'll dissect the unspoken rules of this game. Why isn't the Lincoln a ship, but a 4-layered defense bubble? Why is the Tripoli the most misjudged ship in the world? And why does the range on paper not equate to the ability to hit in real combat? But most importantly, if the missile isn't the central threat, then what is the real remaining blow? Because by the end of this analysis, you'll realize the biggest problem isn't the warhead. It's something the billion-dollar Aegis system was never designed to shoot down. To understand why Iran's claims are so far removed from reality, we must begin by redefining the objective. The USS Abraham Lincoln is not a single ship adrift at sea. It is the nucleus of a CSG carrier strike group. In modern military thinking, the Lincoln doesn't defend itself with a steel hull. It's protected by an ecosystem of Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and Ticonderoga-class cruisers. When you fire a missile at the Lincoln, you're not attacking a physical entity. You're confronting an integrated defensive organism where every radar and vertical launch system is connected via the Aegis system to create a void space that no foreign object is allowed to penetrate. At the same time, the USS Tripoli is often referred to by amateur analysts as a soft target because of its LHA designation, landing ship assault. This is a fatal error in intelligence assessment. In its Lightning carrier configuration, Tripoli doesn't carry troops or armored vehicles. It carries more than 20 35B stealth fighters. This makes it an expeditionary airfield with an air-fire density greater than the entire fighter squadrons of many countries in the region. Tripoli isn't just capable of self-defense. It's capable of eliminating threats before they even leave their launch pads on land. Why is this distinction important? Because if you only see Lincoln and Tripoli as two large ships, you're looking at the wrong object of analysis from the start. What we're really dissecting is a vital ecosystem surrounding them. And to understand why that ecosystem is virtually impenetrable, we must pass through the 4 gates of a defensive architecture designed to force the enemy to make mistakes. The Aegis system doesn't protect the Lincoln by luck. It operates based on a surgical procedure involving 4 survival gates. Think of these as 4 physical tests that any Iranian missile must pass consecutively if it wants to hit the ship's hull. Gate 1, SM-6, Standard Missile 6. This is a long-range missile with a range of over 130 nautical miles. The SM-6's Vipro characteristic isn't just its range, but its ability to engage targets beyond the horizon. It can destroy Iranian missiles before the attacker's guidance system can see the Lincoln. Gate 2, SM-2 Block 3IB. If the object penetrates the outer layer, it will face a regional defense fire network at a range of 90 nautical miles. The SM-2 is optimized to sweep away threats from aircraft and cruise missiles trying to find vulnerabilities. Gate 3, ESSM, Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile. At a range of 27 nautical miles, this is a test of extremely rapid response capabilities. ESSM is specifically designed to counter hypersonic missiles with erratic trajectories. Here, the physics problem becomes severe. The higher the speed, the easier it is for ESSM to exploit the attacker's guidance errors. Final gate, Phalanx CIWS. When the distance is only a few meters, this fully automated 20mm Gatling gun system will unleash 4,500 rounds per minute. It doesn't wait for human commands. It locks onto and it crushes everything that remains into metal fragments before they can even make contact. But let's forget about the American arsenal for a moment. Suppose Iran had a miraculous missile that could penetrate all 4 layers of defense. They would still face the biggest hurdle, the targeting paradox. Lincoln and Tripoli are not fixed islands. They're constantly moving entities traveling at 30 knots. Let's do a quick calculation. A long-range missile takes about 10 minutes to travel 270 nautical miles. In those 10 minutes, the American Naval Task Force would have moved more than 5 nautical miles, or more than 9 kilometers, from its original position. To hit its target, Iran would need a never-ending data nervous system, from satellites and reconnaissance UAVs to coastal radars, all tracking the target every second and transmitting that data back to the flying missile. However, after 38 days of Operation Epic Fury, Iran's ISR network, it has been torn apart. When the chain of perception is broken, the missile is just a block of metal flying blindly toward the shadow of the past. You can't hit a car if you only aim at its position 10 minutes ago. In modern naval warfare, power doesn't lie in the best missile, but in the ability to deliver more projectiles simultaneously than the defense system can handle. This is called a saturation attack. For an Aegis strike group, intercepting 1 or 5 missiles is a routine exercise. But to achieve a real penetration probability, Iran needs to create a saturation salvo. Dozens of projectiles must coordinate precisely to strike the target simultaneously from multiple directions. Why is this important? Because it turns the war into a multi-target handling problem. If Iran cannot perfectly coordinate the launch salvo, each missile leaving the launch pad will simply be a separate target for the various layers of US defenses. However, reality is far harsher than theory. The original transcript points to a fact. Missile launchers like College Fars or Zulfikar are not inexhaustible. After 38 days of Operation Epic Fury, more than half of the IRGC's mobile launch infrastructure has been hunted down and destroyed. The surviving units are now under 24/7 surveillance by US ISRs. Assembling enough missiles to deliver a devastating blow is now an impossible task. We need to understand that missile stockpiles don't guarantee the tactical value of a strike. An army doesn't lose strength when it runs out of ammunition. It loses strength when it no longer has the infrastructure to use ammunition at the right time. This is the real turning point in this game. Imagine missiles are the muscles, but ISRs, C2S, and data links are the nervous system. Iran may still be able to produce warheads, but what they cannot recreate in the short term is the nervous system of war. When the sensory network is torn apart, all muscles become paralyzed. A system cannot fight if the brain can no longer hear the voices of the senses. Modern warfare has shifted. It's no longer a clash of steel blocks, but a purge of nervous systems. But look at the final asymmetry. The billion-dollar Aegis system is designed to intercept kinetic objects, missiles, warheads, debris. It does that perfectly. However, there's one thing the SM-6 or Phalanx were never designed to shoot down: signals. Iran's targeting statement, while lacking the physical capability to execute, is still an effective blow to the cognitive realm. It creates psychological pressure, amplifies the crisis, and forces the enemy to expend resources on a non-existent threat. Aegis can destroy an incoming object traveling at Mach 5, but it's completely powerless against a signal traveling at the speed of light. That's the real battlefield we're witnessing. Look at the most silent but deadly weapons on the decks of Lincoln and Tripoli. Not fighters, but active jamming systems like the AN SLQ 32V7. When Iranian missiles activate their active radar seekers to locate the shape of a 100,000-ton ship, the US fleet doesn't simply evade. They perform a digital cloning attack. By emitting simulated carrier-specific radar signals, the US creates dozens of ghost ships on the enemy missile's screen. In the world of guidance algorithms, the missile is pulled off its real target and into an undefined void where only electromagnetic waves dance. You can't hit a real entity if the enemy has the power to define truth on your radar screen. But this war isn't just about jamming. It has evolved to a higher level: the collapse of cyber perception. The US NIFC-CA Naval Integrated Fire Control Counter-Air System allows Lincoln and Tripoli to share a vision with every entity in the network. If a ship's radar is jammed by Iran, it can borrow the vision of a high-flying F-35 or a destroyer hundreds of miles away to maintain the tactical picture. Meanwhile, Iran's network is a fragmented structure. When the US uses cyber attacks and electronic jamming to cut off the data link between coastal radar stations and a flying missile, Iran's chain of actions will fall into a state of desynchronization. At Hormuz, possessing missiles is only a necessary condition. The sufficient condition for victory is mastering the chaos of frequency bands. And until Iran can solve the problem of US electromagnetic dominance, all claims of targeting will forever remain wooden arrows shot into a digital fog. But even as media signals are distorting the realm of perception, on the ground, an even older barrier is reshaping the entire game: geography. While the US fleet relies on the vastness of the ocean to maximize the range of its Aegis, Iran has turned its fractured terrain into a giant rock shield. The IRGC's mobile launch platforms are not exposed. They are hidden deep within underground bunkers, dug through the rocky mountains along the strait. This is the topographical paradox. These mountain ranges are a natural blind spot where US radar is almost impenetrable. However, the trap lies in this: the terrain conceals the launch platforms, but it also confines the vision of the owners themselves. To guide the missiles, Iran is forced to move its sensors out of the safe zone of the Rocky Mountains. The moment they manage to see us, the rock shield becomes useless. A game of hide and seek, where the price of a glance is destruction. When the terrain has established a stalemate, the war enters the most brutal phase of systemic logic, the mathematics of attrition. Look at the balance sheet of war. The US possesses the perfect Aegis system, but the number of vertical launch tubes on each destroyer is finite. Iran's tactic isn't to sink ships with a direct hit. It's to force the US to squander its expensive missile stockpile on disproportionate targets. When Iran unleashes a barrage of cheap suicide drones, they aren't buying an explosion, they're buying time and exhaustion. Each $1 million SM-6 missile shooting down a few $1,000 drone is a victory in kinetic energy, but a defeat in strategic economics. The ultimate victory won't belong to the one with the most powerful weapon, but to the one who still has ammunition after the opponent has used their last. This is no longer a contest of explosives, but a contest between production capacity and consumption rate. We've dissected the perfection of the Aegis algorithms, the harshness of geography and attrition mathematics. But every system, however sophisticated, ultimately converges on a single link: humanity. Imagine the state inside the CIC command center after weeks of continuous combat duty in the 50 degrees Celsius heat of the Gulf. Machines don't tire, but the human brain does. Under the pressure of thousands of jamming signals and constant signal attacks from the enemy, the mental acuity of the combat crew begins to reach a biological breakpoint. This is where reality crushes theory. Just a second of distraction in target classification, a moment of hesitation in pressing the intercept button, or a small error in reading the pressure chart, the entire billion-dollar defense architecture becomes meaningless. In this pressure bunker, the greatest enemy of the American soldier is not Iranian missiles, but the exhaustion of their own nervous system. The ultimate asymmetry lies in the nature of patience. An Iranian missile unit can wait for months, even years, behind rocky cliffs with virtually zero maintenance costs. They hold the advantage of defense. Only a single stroke of luck is needed to change history. Conversely, maintaining an expeditionary carrier strike group offshore costs the US millions of dollars a day and places immense psychological pressure on both the military and the international political arena. The US Expeditionary Force is torn between two pincers: technical perfection and the attrition of manpower. At Hormuz, the real war doesn't just take place on the surface of the sea, but in the depths of patience. Sometimes, the victor isn't the one with the strongest punch, but the one who can withstand the tension a second longer than their opponent. When the machinery has reached its limit, the final thing left to maintain balance is the skill of those holding the buttons. After all the mathematical and physical analysis, we arrive at a cold conclusion. Lincoln and Tripoli are not secure because they are absolutely impenetrable. They are secure because they are part of a layered defense architecture where the enemy's error is compounded with each nautical mile. The first and most costly lesson: 21st century naval warfare is a contest of systems, not of individual weapons. We cannot judge the balance of power simply by comparing who has more missiles or who has a longer range on paper. The second lesson: the future of naval defense is no longer just about kinetic energy. If warfare has shifted partly to the realm of signals, perception, and strategic messaging, then the concept of defense must also broaden. The fleet of the future needs more than just vertical launch systems. It needs the ability to control the pace of crises and manage the information space around it. Because sometimes shooting down a false message is more important than intercepting a physical warhead. We've deciphered the USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Tripoli puzzle. Global strategic balance isn't based on media pronouncements, but on unshakable laws of physics and mathematics. But I want to leave you with a question. If modern naval systems have become too intelligent to be defeated by physical blows, where will the next race take place? On the surface of the sea, in sensor networks, or in our own cognitive space? This brief ends here. Thank you for running the calculations with me. This is the Navy Codex, where we decipher reality with cold precision. See you in the next bunker.